Hello, everybody, and welcome to another pricing Q&A. Today, we'll start actually with a local guest question here because Paul has a question. Go on.
Am I local? Am
Um,
I?
yes, you are.
On Zoom, everyone's local, right?
Exactly. And you're right here. You didn't just send me the question. So you count as a local.
Okay, so my question has to do with, I suppose, scope. Having grappled with this idea of getting a fixed price and focusing on the value of it, and the customer now, the client now agrees, how you grapple with staying inside that scope and not over delivering, or not having to over deliver, which are different things.
It's about the goal, the stated goal of the service before you agree on the scope. It doesn't matter if it's a service that's a usual package or an unusual package. Just for that, you say to the client, what do you want to achieve with this scope, within this scope, right? What are you paying for? Right? Okay, great. Let's go over that. What would make it a really great deal for you? So what would be the ideal position that I leave you in, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what services are. Services are a promised state in the future, right? Here now, you want to be there. Okay, so where do you want to be? Okay, now the important question is, how do we measure that? How do we know that we are there?
Okay.
Once you know that, you can deflect any great idea, any additional work by saying, but that would detract us from the stated goal, and that would probably not show up in our success metric.
Yes.
So yes, that might be a great idea, but let's first come to the state that you want it, and then we can talk about phase two.
Yes.
Have I answered the question?
Absolutely, and very precisely. Yes. Well, so then the gap is obvious in my conversation.
Yeah, the question of scope is very usual. It's the first thing that people think of when they think of a fixed price. So how do I handle with scope? Because you have to understand, we're talking to a person who doesn't really know what they need. They know what they want. And within their head, it's always going to take less than it will actually take, right?
Yes.
They know they want to get there somewhere. And yeah, we should go a little right? No, we should go around the mountain, but yeah, it's to the right. Their imagined scope is always going to be less, right?
Yes.
The thing is, they might not think they're getting value for their money. So they sometimes try to pump that up, right?
Yes, add things.
Add things, as long as I'm paying, right?
Yeah.
Can you just also, right? That just word is, I don't think it's polite. I think kids should be taught that. I don't think it's polite to say just for something that somebody else has to do. I can say just, oh, I'll just do that. Okay. But can you just, right? That minimizes what I'm asking for.
Yeah.
The perception of it. By focusing on the end goal and not by the tactics or the means, which they don't see all the work that's coming in there, and they don't appreciate it. You just focus on the end goal and say, yeah, well, if I do that, I divert my energy and my thought from the stated goal. Let's absolutely do that in phase two. Yeah.
Yes. Good. I'll have another stab at another question later, not now. But
okay.
That has the interesting inference about exploring. You said a bit about, they know what they want, but not what they need. It also infers that they may not necessarily know how to measure it. So you have to explore that with them too.
Absolutely. And that has to be explored before the deal is set, because how it's measured has a great influence on what is delivered. In research for my newsletter, I found out that the great Russian authors like Dostoevsky, they're known, especially to high schoolers in Europe, for having these huge, door stoppers, right?
Yeah, tomes.
Tomes, exactly. Yes. And it was always a discussion of, why did the author feel the need to explore the looks of that tree right next to the train tracks in St. Petersburg for like 16 pages, right? Until I found out that they were paid by the word. So all the mystery evaporated in that second.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not a literary critic, but there's still great deeds and blah, blah, but they would have looked completely differently if they were priced differently. That's the point, right? So yes, it's always the expert who should have an idea of how to measure stuff. That's not always easy, but leaving that to the client is a mistake.
It's a great point. It resonates with me. One of the other things I'm busy debating is this idea that, in essence, your audience will pay you more the less words you use. You know, simplicity, if you can get to the point in 30 seconds, why must I listen for 30 minutes?
Absolutely.
And of course, that's the direct opposite of content creation, because now I must convince you, if I'm the content creator, I must convince you as the client that you must pay more for less words. And so the client, no, like if you double the words or triple them, no, you don't want more words, you want less words. Anyway.
Yes, and that is absolutely conflicted. My first business was creating board games for companies. So they wanted to sell something they couldn't sell. We made a board game for them that is now going to sell these toys as components, right? For a game, or made it collectible or stuff like that. And they always ask me, can we do it, but with a very simple rule set, half a page maximum? And they thought that was going to be cheaper.
Yes.
And I said, we totally can and we should, but that's the expensive version. So 20 pages of rules, no problem. 3 weeks max.
Right?
Getting those 20 pages to 10 pages is a big endeavor. Getting those 10 pages to 6 is a problem. Getting those 6 into 1 page, that's 6 months. And having that's 6 months more.
Yes.
Right? It doesn't make any sense to price words like they were shovels of dirt. Yes, I can see more. You have shoveled more, so I should pay you more then. Yeah, because of what you said.
Essentially, if we look at it, the debate between the client and the content creator, and the content creator saying, well, look, I'll write less words, they'll be more effective and you'll pay me the same price. And the client says, well, hold on, that doesn't make any sense to me. To my mind, it seems as if there's an element missing in the negotiation, because if the content creator is smart, so, well, why don't we ask the person that really counts here, your audience? Let's see what they want. Do they want your message in 10 words or 10 pages?
Absolutely. And you can say to the client, if you were a member of that audience, would you like to read something important in 10 words or 10 pages?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the end result's the same. You just have to work out what the key 10 words are in the 10 pages I give you. Or I could just do that for you.
See? The just word.
But that's me. I'm allowed to say that according to you.
That's absolutely. So you were talking about yourself, but you also said to the client, and I think you did it in great effect here, because you can ask, so what are the 10 most important words in those 10 pages? Can you tell?
Yeah.
And that's why you should pay me more for less words, because I can't tell.
Yes. Good. Thank you. Question answered. I like the answer too.
Well, you're always welcome, as you know. How much can I discount and not sound desperate? That's hard to say exactly, but it depends on 3 things. It depends on the reason given for the discount, when it ceases to apply, when is discount done, and what do you get in return? Because even 15% can sound desperate if there's no clear reason why they're getting a discount. Right? If you say the price is 100, no, okay, it's 90. Then it's actually 90. That it doesn't really communicate that they actually got the discount. On the other hand, with my first company, I gave to a client 70% of a discount for the first job, followed by, after 3 weeks, 35% for the second job and 0 for the third 2 weeks after. So they clearly didn't think I was bluffing. They clearly saw the value. So the stated reasons were, you never worked with us, we're young. It's okay for you to be skeptical about the price. So let's do the first job at a huge discount. And then when we were done with the first job, I asked in writing, were you happy with the job? And they said, yes, yeah, sure, we're happy. And then I issued them the second invoice, and it was half of the discount. So just 35%, just 35%. And they said, why is it double the price now? I said, it's not double the price, man. it's just half the discount, because the discount was given directly because you had no prior experience to us, and now you do. Okay, you have one experience with us, so maybe it was a fluke. Let's try again. But the next time you will have confirmation that it was not a fluke and that you're happy with it. So they were happy with the second job, and the third time they paid full price. And subsequently they paid full price because the stated reason ran out. And maybe they thought that the first 70% were desperate. They kind of were. But as it progressed, they started to be okay with it. It was a very, very rapid progression. So as long as there's a clear reason why you have the discount and when it ceases to apply, and ultimately, what do you get in return? Because sometimes you really want the client to pay within the next 3 days, or you really want the client to sign a lengthy contract with you. So whatever you really want, you're willing to pay for it. You're willing to lower your price for it. If it's something that is clearly important to you and you're giving a hefty discount for it, it's okay. It doesn't seem desperate, even if the discount is pretty hefty. In order not to seem that you're bluffing, you should have a reason ready. You should state it clearly when it ceases to apply, and you should make it clear what are the things that you ask in return. And in my case, I talked about, it was about getting it going. So they had a huge discount because we wanted to get a project going right then and there. Is it better to go into negotiations as a duo, not solo? Okay. So is it better to go and negotiate on your own or with some backup, right? With a partner or with a technical expert or with a friend? Probably the only bad idea is going to negotiate with your mom. Not something that's usually practiced, but I have heard of cases people going into job negotiations like that. Bad idea. In general, it's better to go into negotiations with somebody, but with some major caveats. First and foremost, when you go into negotiations, you have to know who's the, let's say, pilot and who are the co-pilots. Negotiation teams should be set up in a way that only the pilot, whoever that is, can express new opinions or even talk about moving boundaries that were set. Everybody else, so the one co-pilot or many co-pilots, are there to help hold the line. So you can go into negotiations with a technical expert, and depending on the situation, it can be a good idea that the technical expert is actually the pilot. So if the technical expert says to the client, this is not possible in that circumstance, it's the salesperson's job to defend that and supply other reasons why that is reasonable, why that is only to be expected, why that is the best that you can do. It shouldn't be an ego thing. It's the team's effort, and the team's success depends on people knowing their role in the negotiation. And of course, sometimes it's better for the business person to set boundaries and for the technical person to defend them. This can or doesn't have to be the default, depending on industry, depending on many things. Caliber of the client, the knowledge that the client has about the industry and technology in question and stuff like that. As an illustration for that, remember what happened in The Godfather, right? The movie, the book, as you like. All trouble started in a negotiation between Don Corleone and the drug dealer Don from outside. The Don said, we'll do many bad things, but we're not going to use our judges to defend drug dealing. And the other side would have respected that, but Don Corleone took his oldest son with him, and his oldest son, within the meeting, within the negotiations, broke ranks and said, but Dad, this could be our big chance, this, that. And the other side saw that there was no unity between them. And he knew that this was the Don's eldest son, and that in Sicilian culture, the oldest son inherits. And the only logical thing for him to do was to try to kill the Don, because the oldest son is obviously on his side. So he just has to remove this obstacle, and then they'll be in business. He thought wrong, but the point is, you don't break ranks in negotiation. That can only lead to trouble on your own side. So internal boundaries we're not going over this, we're not going over that, should be set in advance. But it's my opinion that even that can be betrayed, let's say, for good business reasons or for good technical reasons by the pilot and only the pilot. And the pilot bears all the responsibility and all the glory and all the blame if the negotiations go south. There has to be a pilot, and it has to be perfectly clear who the pilot is. Without that, if that's not possible for ego reasons, rank reasons, cultural reasons, it doesn't matter. Then it's way better to go into negotiations solo than with other people. Sometimes it's simply not possible. Okay, then go solo. If that is possible, you can be much stronger as a team, as long as everybody is perfectly clear on where the boundaries are and who can move them. What is the simplest way of creating different levels of pricing for people with different means? This is what they call a product ladder, having different levels of service, which means that somebody who cannot pay one-on-one engagement probably can pay for a Udemy style course, or probably can pay even less for a book, or even less for a set of templates. What you should know here is that in the traditional sense, you make the price by thinking of the product first. Doesn't matter if it's actually a service. I'm thinking about the scope, right? So the scope of the job goes first, then you price that. And when thinking of that way of pricing things, it's difficult to think of a product ladder. But try going the other way. Try going with price first and then see what product you can offer for that price and be very happy with it. Let's say you don't want to move the price of what you're usually doing, whatever that is. So you know that what the usual scope is, you know what the usual price for that is, and let's say you're happy with that. Try removing a zero from that price. If it's not a simple number, like 3,000 or 300, round it up and then remove a zero and see what can you offer for 300, let's say, that makes sense and that would bring some value, of course, not the same value, but some significant value to members of your target audience. So what problem can you solve for 300? It's going to be reduced scope. It's going to be maybe pre-recorded instead of live. It's going to be less flexible, but it will have other good sides on it. Not the least of which is it costs 10 times less. Once you set that up in your head, at least, remove another zero. See what you can offer for 30. Maybe there's nothing you can offer for 30, but that's usually not the case. You can make an ebook. Those are easy to make these days. You can make a workbook. You can give a few hours of webinar for that price and come up ahead. And then remove the last zero as well and see what you can give for 3. That's probably going to be a set of templates or set of rules or a cheat sheet of some sorts. You probably can provide value even at that level, especially if you do it once and sell it many times. And finally, go back to your original price of, let's say, 3,000 and see what you could offer for 30,000. Let's say somebody said, I really, really like what you do, and I have this budget of 30,000, and I would like to know what you can offer me for it. Even if nobody ever does that, it's pretty hard to see that that's something that can happen. It happens every day, but sometimes we think that's never going to happen to us. It's good to know what that would be so that you can put elements of that in your negotiation or work on parts of that in your R&D time, and that you know that you're ready for such an eventuality. Maybe nobody will ever ask for 30, but some people will maybe ask for something custom that will come to like 40% of the enlarged scope that you imagine for the 30,000. And then you will have ready also the scope, the calculations. You will be able to reduce that. You will be able to give a discount or something. There now you have 5-step product ladder in which every step leads to the next rung, right? Somebody can technically go in at $3, see that they like what you do at a very low cost, then maybe spring for the $30 rung at some point, read your stuff, try to implement it, see that they could use some help. After a while, spring for the 300 level, go through your course, start implementing your things, and come back in a year or two and say, yeah, now I'm ready. Let's work one-on-one. That's quite a plausible scenario, and you gain money along the way. Of course, the cheaper the offering is, the less of your actual time it should take. But today's technology offers us many ways in which we can earn money in an asynchronous way without any problems. So it's usually the imagining part that's the tough part. And as long as you don't start from scope, but start from price, it's actually pretty easy to make a product ladder. Thank you very much for all of your questions. Thank you, Paul, for your appearing on camera. There's not many people doing that. Everybody watching this is welcome to come to the Q&A or send their question to the Q&A and get their question answered, and then watch the result on YouTube. Thank you very much once again, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Everything changes.